Got started in martial arts as a young boy. I've been a lifetime martial artist. My earliest memories with my father were regarding and related to wrestling. We spent the majority of our time training and wrestling, traveling around the area and around the Northeast, participating in wrestling competitions. As I got a little bit older, towards high school, moving on towards college, I decided to give up my wrestling dream and focus more on academics, as I had gotten an academic scholarship. I had a long time dream of going to college, and in our financial circumstance, I understood that was going to be difficult without a scholarship. So I spent much of my youth working to try to obtain that scholarship through sports and through wrestling. Eventually, when I was in 11th grade, I was offered an academic scholarship, and immediately upon receiving that academic scholarship, I decided that I was done with wrestling. And so going into my senior year of high school, I walked away from wrestling. My freshman year at Bloomsburg, I sat 3 rows behind the 125-pound state champion from my senior year, and I spent the majority of that Monday night class staring at the back of his head, wondering about what would have come of me had I continued to wrestle. This was in about 1995. It was at that point that I knew I had to find some way to get out my physical prowess, or my desire, my need to be competitive. And at that point, there was no Jiu Jitsu available anywhere locally. I had been doing some boxing at the time, and prior to that, I had done karate and different arts. So the closest thing that I was able to find in the late 90s locally was judo. That kind of resonated with my grappling background, and it's also akin to Jiu Jitsu. So I started doing judo. I basically utilized my wrestling tactics in judo, and I was able to climb the ranks pretty quickly, just because I was a decent wrestler and not so much because I was that great at judo. But in doing so, I met a guy from the Philadelphia area, from Downingtown, Tom Murphy. And Tom was a purple belt at the time. He was training in Ohio with the Hammer House with Mark Coleman and some Olympic caliber wrestlers. He was also training in Downingtown with Sergio Souza from Brazilian Top Team. He came and started attending the judo class with me locally, and we would spend a lot of our time working together, developing my jiu-jitsu game. There were very few resources available at that time to study and learn jiu-jitsu. There were a couple of online websites. One was called Moosel's Academy, and maybe the Underground Forum, but there was no access to YouTube or anything beyond that. So much of my learning was relegated to getting these videos shipped in, watching these VHS tapes, trying out these moves with my judo partners, and whenever Tom was around, the purple belt, when he was in town, he would tighten things up for us and make things sufficient. I was competing in grappling tournaments and some MMA type events regionally, and I needed training partners. I was going to New York or Jersey at the time and doing these competitions, but I really didn't have a strong group of training partners. But I had a buddy who I worked with who owned a traditional martial arts academy. His name was John Powell. I said, John, I'm looking for some training partners in order to continue working on my craft. I said, I would like to be able to train with your students at your school, and in exchange for you allowing me that privilege, I will teach them what I know in terms of boxing, kickboxing. I will teach them what I know in terms of wrestling and judo, and what I knew about jiu-jitsu, which, as I said at the time, wasn't a whole lot. I was probably a decent purple belt level at the time, and John was open to it. So We started the area's first mixed martial arts school, which became known as Team Vicious. And for about 15 or so years, I was the lead instructor there, teaching the majority of the striking, grappling, kickboxing classes. We went on to become one of the leading MMA schools in the region. We've had competitors who've had contracts with some of the most prestigious promotions in the country, from Bellator MMA to Lion Fight Muay Thai. But for me, myself personally, as much as I enjoyed MMA, kickboxing, judo, all of the arts, I had a passion for Jiu Jitsu. And I had a strong desire to put my brand and my name on Jiu Jitsu in Lycoming County. For about 15 years, while I was training and teaching at this MMA school, I was doing it as a volunteer service because I loved the arts. I wanted to be able to give back to the community, and I just wanted to share my knowledge. And it was fun. It was something to do. At the same time, I was a single father. I was raising 2 kids on my own, half-time. I shared custody with their mother, 50-50 custody. And that, of course, took up the majority of my time and much of my resources, but I had it in mind that whenever my children graduated from high school, that would free up some resources for me, both time-wise and monetarily, and at that point I would start my own school. And that's always been my goal, that's always been my dream, it's always been my passion. It's what I do. I spend all of my free time studying Jiu Jitsu, and I have for probably the past close to 20 years. I'm a prolific student of the game, and I seek knowledge continually. So when my daughter graduated, she was my youngest, she graduated from high school in 2020 during the COVID epidemic. And my intention was then to find a school and get going right away, but of course with the challenges of COVID, that delayed things a bit for me. And so in 2022, I was able to establish 570 Jiu-Jitsu and begin leading with our brand and giving our Jiu-Jitsu back to the community.